America has done it again, and this time, it's the tiny kingdom of Eswatini that has found itself at the center of a global controversy. The United States under President Donald Trump has just deported a group of foreign nationals to Eswatini, a move that follows a recent US Supreme Court decision lifting restrictions on deporting migrants to third countries. Yes, you read that right. Not their countries of origin, but third countries. And Eswatini, tucked away in southern Africa, has become one of the chosen destinations. According to the US Department of Homeland Security, the flight landed this week carrying 5 men from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen, all convicted of serious crimes. American officials claim these individuals were so uniquely barbaric that even their own home countries refused to take them back. In a move that has shocked immigration watchers, enraged human rights defenders, and left many Africans asking, why Eswatini? Why now? And at what costs? Is this simply about global cooperation, or are African nations being used as dumping grounds for America's unwanted migrants? The Trump administration, emboldened by a Supreme Court win, is wasting no time. It recently announced that under its new policy, migrants can be deported to third countries with as little as 6 hours' notice in urgent cases, effectively bypassing traditional due process safeguards. Although the memo from ICE's acting director Todd Lyons says the person should be given access to legal counsel, critics argue that such a tight timeline renders this right almost meaningless. And as one might expect, these rapid deportations don't always come with the consent of the countries receiving the migrants. In fact, in many of these cases, the receiving nations are not the deportees' homes, but unfamiliar places with no cultural linguistic ties to them. How exactly does Eswatini benefit from receiving a Yemeni or Cuban criminal? Has the US struck backdoor deals in exchange for silence or aid? This incident is far from isolated. Just a few weeks ago, a similar deportation took place involving 8 migrants who were sent to South Sudan after spending weeks in limbo in Djibouti due to legal hurdles. Only one of the 8 had any roots in South Sudan. The others came from Myanmar, Cuba, Vietnam, Laos, and Mexico. Again, their home countries refused to accept them, so America found another place to send them. Human rights advocates were quick to voice outrage, asking whether sending people halfway across the world to places they have no connection to and without any established resettlement structures isn't simply institutionalized exile. But Trump's logic is clear. If migrants, particularly those who commit crimes, face the possibility of being deported not just home, but to somewhere completely unfamiliar, the prospect of illegal immigration becomes a whole lot less appealing. It's a deterrent strategy, and in some ways, it's working. The fear of being dumped in a country you've never even heard of, with no family or support, is powerful. But critics say it's also cruel, discriminatory, and fundamentally inhumane. It punishes not just the guilty, but anyone who crosses America's borders without authorization by weaponizing uncertainty and exile. The policy is also raising eyebrows across the African continent. The fact that Eswatini, South Sudan, and even Rwanda have been named in this list of potential dumping zones raises deep questions. What deals are being made behind closed doors? What financial or diplomatic incentives are luring these countries to sign up? Some analysts suggest it's about currying favor with the US in a time of heightened geopolitical tension. Others believe cash is changing hands, maybe not openly, but through promised development aid, security support, or access to trade deals. In a world where foreign policy often comes to transactional relationships, is it any surprise that smaller nations might accept such terms? However, not all African countries are bowing to Washington's demands. Nigeria, for instance, has come out strongly against the idea. According to officials in Abuja, Nigeria will not be pressured into accepting third country deportees or prisoners from the United States, especially not Venezuelans or other nationals with no ties to Africa. And their message is clear. Nigeria is not a thrash bin for America's broken immigration system. Still, the list of countries reportedly in talks with the US continues to grow. Apart from South Sudan and Eswatini, media reports suggest that Benin, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, and even Moldova are on the radar. El Salvador and Costa Rica have already been recipients of deportees. What this shows is a systematic strategy, one that aims to shift the burden of America's immigration challenges to weaker or more desperate nations. But does this approach create more problems than it solves? From Trump's perspective, it's a strong-arm tactic that fits perfectly with his America First mantra. His administration is showing that it will go to the great lengths, legally and diplomatically, to rid the country of undocumented individuals, especially those with criminal records. And by doing so, he appeals to his base, which sees immigration as a threat to American identity, safety, and economic opportunity. But from the perspective of the deportees themselves, it's a nightmare. Imagine finishing a prison sentence in the US, only to be told you are not going home, but are being sent to a country you've never even visited, where you speak none of the languages and have no legal status or community. What does life look like then? What happens when Eswatini or South Sudan has no infrastructure to handle or monitor them? Are they just let loose in society? Human rights groups say this policy reeks of neocolonialism and disrespect. It treats African countries as disposable tools in America's domestic policy battles. Some activists have warned that the consequences could be dire, not just for the migrants, but for the social fabric of the countries receiving them. The potential for resentment, discrimination, and social tension is high, especially if these deportees arrive without support or integration framework. Meanwhile, the governments accepting these deportees often remain silent or ambiguous. In Eswatini, officials have yet to comment publicly on the recent flight. In South Sudan, there has been no confirmation that long-term reintegration support is being planned. That silence speaks volumes. Are they ashamed, or are they trying to avoid local backlash? The deeper issue is this. When powerful nations make decisions that dramatically affect lives in the global south, and do so unilaterally, it reinforces a dangerous precedent that African nations can be bought, can be pressured, or simply ignored in global decision-making. But the blowback might be coming. As more and more Africans awaken to the implications of these policies, a continental conversation may soon erupt about sovereignty, dignity, and what kind of partnerships African states are willing to tolerate. For now, the Trump administration shows no signs of slowing down, and unless African leaders take a stand, like Nigeria has, more countries may find themselves unwillingly complicit in a morally murky deportation strategy that treats migrants like disposable cargo. The question is, who will be next? And how long will Africa tolerate being a silent partner in America's immigration chess game? Your perspective matters. What do you make of America's strategy of deporting migrants to third-party countries like Eswatini and South Sudan? Should more African nations accept this deal or reject it? Share your thoughts and insights in the comment section below. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the new Africa channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our informative future videos. Stay informed, stay engaged, and thank you for watching.